Hello viewers and welcome to the first video in a playthrough of Attila Total War. Now, we are actually going to be playing a mod for Attila. You can see it on the screen here. It's Medieval Kingdoms Total War 1212 AD. This is a total conversion mod that takes the Attila base engine and creates a game world that is based on medieval Europe in, surprise, surprise, 1212 AD. So this is actually a really exciting mod for me because I am one of the people who advocated very, very hard for Creative Assembly to create a third medieval Total War. And I know a lot of people are kind of opposed to that because like, oh, well, there's already been two medieval Total Wars. We could do something else. But I mean, like the Middle Ages, like everything about the Middle Ages just completely lends itself to a Total War game. And I was actually really excited with Total War Three Kingdoms because I was thinking like, this whole emphasis on storyline and your characters being central to this storyline, like that would be perfect for the Middle Ages and the age of kings and queens and knights and all of that stuff. It would have been perfect, but instead they decided to go with Troy, and I'm not going to comment on that because I would probably go on like a 15-minute rant about how I'm not at all happy with Troy being setting for the next Total War game. But let's go ahead and get started here. So to start out with, we can only do the early campaign. I'm not sure if the late campaign unlocks when you beat the early campaign or what exactly the deal is, but we're going to go ahead with the early campaign because that's our only option. And the first thing you see is like, look at all these factions. This is the other reason why medieval Europe is so amazing for a Total War game, because you literally have a million factions here. You have endless options, and this doesn't even cover all of the entities in medieval Europe. This just covers a lot of the better known ones, but it also covers a lot of smaller entities. So you have like the Canton of Schweiz, which is what is now modern day Switzerland. You have the Kingdom of Georgia, which is crazy because it's such a small, kingdom out in the middle of nowhere. You have all these little Eastern European like boyarships and tsardoms and all this stuff. So that's really really cool because it just very accurately reflects medieval Europe and how many small nations there were um, in Europe at the time, and how, really from a historical perspective, how, a lot of these nations, given a few turns of history, could have become modern nations in their own right. It's really just kind of the twists of fate, if you would, that condemned them to not, to not survive. You can even play as the Teutonic Order here. You can play as the Kingdom of Jerusalem. If you really want to get absolutely slammed by the Muslim factions, you'll be down here. You only have 21,000 people. That's something else I was going to bring up, is that you'll see it. You have population here, and population in this mod plays a huge role because it's going to impact how many units you can recruit. This is actually a mechanic that I really, really like because it's something that's sort of similar if you've ever played, Europa Universalis or most of the Paradox games. You can't just endlessly recruit troops if you're this teeny nation. You're limited by how many people actually live there, which is very realistic because you can't just keep recruiting troops if you've exhausted your entire male population. Um, so I really like this because it forces you to really focus on different army styles or army strategies if you're a small nation as opposed to a big nation. Because like if I'm France, I can human wave people. Who cares? There's 261,000 people. We got people to spare. We're not going to give you spears. You can pick up the spear from the dead guy and use that. We'll save on weapons here. Whereas if I'm playing somebody like the Teutonic Order, we only have 3,000 people. So we're going to really focus on a very elite army that's going to be able to trade off and get tons of kills in return for, very few deaths, because we kind of have to. We're going to go through that 3,000 population really quickly. So anyway, we're going to go with playing as the Grand, whatever it is, Yazeti. I don't know how you really pronounce that. But we're going to go with Kiev, and this is interesting to me. The reason I'm choosing Kiev is because I did live in Ukraine for about a year. I was working over in Ukraine. I actually worked out of Kiev. I learned a lot about the history there. It's really fascinating because Kiev and Rus was like this, it was an ancient city-state principality, whatever you want to call it. And they were basically like a real cultural crossroads between all of these different cultures, because you had like the indigenous Rus peoples. Rus is not to be confused with Russian. Russians derive from Rus, but they're very different things. But they were also mixed in with these Vikings that came down the river while they were exploring, and then they eventually got heavy influences from the Tartars and the Cumans and the Mongols. So really, Kiev and Rus was sort of like this interesting crossroads and often a battleground between all these different cultures. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to play as Kiev. They also have a pretty decent starting position. We'll kind of go over. They have 60,000 people, which isn't enough so that we'll be completely overpowered and able to steamroll people like you could with, say, France. Because France has 261,000 people, they can absolutely steamroll other factions. But 60,000 is also enough that we can afford to make a few mistakes and we don't have to play ultra cautious like we would with, like, say, the Teutonic Order. So let's go ahead here and get started. The one thing I will warn you about is playing this mod through. Some of the loading screens are very, very long. This is a problem for those of you who have played Attila and the Total War Warhammer series. It's been an issue with Total War that the campaign maps especially can take a long time to load in. In fact, for Total War Warhammer, I believe for Attila as well, they actually issued out several optimization patches to try to fix that and have been largely successful. But this mod, I do notice that the loading screens can take a long time, and I think a lot of that is just due to the number of things this conversion added in. And I definitely notice it more in Western Europe, where there's more factions and more going on than in Eastern Europe. So hopefully, by being in Eastern Europe, we'll avoid the worst of that. This mod also introduces war weariness, which is a really cool feature because it basically, in addition to your population, it kind of limits how much you can go to war with people, how long you can be in a state of war for. And I really like that because it keeps a faction like, say, France from just deciding we're going to steamroll the entire map in one long, endless war where we just kind of declare war on everybody and just roll over the whole of Western Europe. You can still do it, but it's significantly more difficult. So let's go ahead and get started here. We'll take a look. We start off with only the one city here, and that is Kiev itself. And you can see our starting army here. Obviously, the thing I like about this is, like the original medieval Total Wars, the factions have different troops that kind of lend them more of a flavor. Like, the fact that I can't pronounce most of these unit names definitely gives it a very foreign, flavor to the faction, which I really like a lot. We have our Rus hunters here. These are our archers. Then we have some Cuman light horse archers, which is pretty interesting. And then you can see we also have 2 recruitment slots left, so that's great. We're going to go ahead and research technologies. The technology trees are not very fleshed out at this point. I don't know if that's something they're going to work on with adding more technologies or if that's kind of a lower priority. Really not sure, but the nice thing about having a less fleshed out technology tree is that you get a lot of buildings every time you research a technology. So that's kind of nice. I mean, look at this. We research one technology, we unlock like pretty much every single industrial building in the game, which is great. So in terms of doing this, I'm kind of looking through here and trying to decide what I really want to build. I'm thinking of building the urban monasteries, so I can go ahead and get complexes. There's also a strong argument for going with military buildings first. Actually, you know what? I am going to go with military buildings first. And the reason is because the Mongols are back. Those of you who have played medieval Total War 2, you'll definitely, if you ever played an Eastern faction, you'll remember how lovely it was when the Mongol invasion hit you, and all of a sudden there's like 5 full stack fucking 6 to 9 veteran C Mongol armies that suddenly steamroll through the eastern part of your empire. They're back in this mod. So, and we are in the very eastern part of Europe, so I have a feeling that we will be getting some Mongol visitors sooner rather than later, and we're going to want to have that military teched up so that we can go ahead and counter that. The other thing I'm looking at doing with this is building tall, to use a paradox term, instead of building wide. And building tall basically means we're not going to try to take over a ton of territories so much as we're going to focus on building up the territories that we do have. The reason that we want to do this, once again, with the Mongols coming, we don't want a big empire with lots of little rebellions going around that requires a lot of, us to spread out a lot more. We want to be consolidated so that we can focus on defending only a few settlements. And that should, I think, help us against the Mongols. I'm hoping it will. I don't know if anything really helps you against the Mongol hordes, but we'll find out. We're also going to go after Halych here. This should be a relatively easy conquest for us. We're going to go ahead and recruit some more troops. Since it looks like this will be a siege. Ooh, dismounted Regina, kind of pricey. Very pricey, and very, they take a while to recruit. So we might go with just Bogatri, or whatever these guys are called. Yeah, Bogatiri. And that should give us 2 extra units to go after them with. We can assign a governor to Kiev, so we want to find somebody that's at least semi-competent at governing stuff, which we don't really have, but we'll assign somebody anyway because it'll help us make a little bit more money, because then we can issue edicts. And we're going to go with additional growth and wealth from commerce. And with that, that actually ends our first turn. So we're off and running here. We are going to wait an extra turn so that we create that unit. That's just because I have the recruitment settings on, or the unit sizes on Ultra, which means that it usually takes 2 to 3 turns to recruit most units. I like playing with the unit sizes on Ultra. And the reason is because when it takes 2 turns to recruit a unit, it makes you think more. You can't just, like enlist an emergency army to counter something because you screwed up with your troop placement. You actually have to kind of plan a little bit in advance, and I really like that fact. Well, I like that aspect of the game a lot. So you can see here, we need to get up here to build this. I just can't do it right now, so we'll pass another turn. We need 13,000 gold to pull that off, and then that should make us a little bit stronger. And it'll take care of our other issues. We are going to pay for a non-aggression pact with the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. And the reason we're going to pay for that non-aggression pact is because we don't want to get steamrolled from behind when the Mongols come in and invade us. So, yeah, just makes sense. We're kind of guarding our northern border, basically. And, of course, we have smallpox. Somehow we have piracy. I guess it must be on the river. We have river pirates now. That's great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and declare war. Whoops. Wrong button. So we're going to go ahead and declare war on these jokers.
We are, as always, a welcoming host to you.
Where's it? Declare war. Yarr! Alright, so now we just have to defeat these guys. Shouldn't be too hard.
Advance. Is that all? Would that I were as swift as
Okay. So we just need to close in on these guys here. We'll see if they send their army to try to attack Kiev, or if they just try to stay at home and defend here. Now, the good thing is because recruitment's on 2 turns, they shouldn't have enough time to recruit additional troops to fight against us with, which is good, because we would be hard put if they defend that with a full stack army and a garrison. That would be very difficult for us. It looks like the Pope, good old Pope, has declared a crusade. So if he plays a Western European faction, you have to deal with the Pope, which is one of my least favorite things from Medieval 2. Me and the Pope never got along very well. All right, so here we are. We have now besieged their main settlement, and I don't really have a lot of incentives to attack them until they start to lose to attrition.
like kenneled dogs.
So we'll go ahead and start reducing that settlement with our siege engines and everything. Now, like I said, we may just wait and at least let them start to starve, because right now it would be a pretty close battle. I mean, like, we could definitely win the battle, but it would be very expensive for us in terms of manpower. And like I said, Kiev has a decent amount of manpower to start with, but not a whole lot. The only thing we do have to keep our eye on is public order back in our home. Back in Kiev is not great right now, probably because there's a smallpox plague going on, which you need to counter the plague by building sanitation buildings. And that was, so like with sanitation here, we actually might, ooh. So this will actually give us more sanitation with the Orthodox Skete or Skete. I don't know, Skeet. I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm trying not to say Skeet, but that is a possible pronunciation, so we'll go with that. But that will help us with sanitation, so we're going to build that in Kiev, and hopefully that will that will help to lessen the effects of that plague that's going through and reduce the chances of the plague recurring on us, because the plagues are definitely a pain in the ass, especially when they infect your army and then your army gets smallpox and you start to take attrition. That will throw a definite damper on any plans of conquest, which is, once again, that's actually very historically accurate, because there are many cases throughout the history of the Middle Ages where very powerful armies were destroyed by disease rather than the enemy. So it's accurate, but it's also rather difficult. So the Pope just declared a crusade on Cairo. Good for them. Let them have fun with that. We're busy conquering little Halij Bohemia here. So we don't care about those silly Catholic crusaders. So our governor has obtained some skills, so we're going to give him some more authority. Anastasia died. I don't even know who Anastasia was. I should probably take a look at my family members before they all pass away. I could probably try to marry them off. Yeah, we'll do that next turn. I always forget about marrying family members off. That'd be a terrible medieval king. Although it might be easier if you had like daughters in front of you, like, you know, walking around in front of you. You might remember them a little bit better, or remember that they exist a little bit better. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look and see if we can forge any alliances, because we really want to get some alliances going here. Let's go with the Grand Duchy, good old Grand Duchy of Lithuania, maybe. Oh no, never mind. These guys are pagans. We don't make friends with those silly pagans. So we have these guys here. Let's see. They're not very friendly to us, but let's see if we can.
And the good wishes of our people
They're vassals. Oh no, wait, maybe they're not. No, never mind. They're not vassals. That's adoption. Never mind. We'll make a defensive alliance. No. Can we make a non-aggression pact? Okay, let's try that. Okay, they don't want a non-aggression pact, so that's not good. They may come after us sooner rather than later, but let's go ahead and we'll try to make friends, or at least sign a non-aggression pact with the Cuman Kipchak Confederacy, except that they don't really like us too much. Yeah, so they're not going to take that. So we really need to we need some sort of an alliance here, because the Cumans will probably steamroll us if they decide to go after us. Okay, so boy, these guys don't want non-aggression pacts with us either. Jesus! Let's try for a trade agreement. Maybe? Nope, no trade. No trade for us. Alright. Nobody wants to trade. That's kind of shitty. Alright, so let's try these guys.
Greetings, friend. We will speak together of whatever you wish, but bring words that can warm our hearts.
We could try payment, I guess. Maybe try to sweeten the pot a little bit for the trade agreement here. Nope, they still don't want it. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just wait and conquer this city then. And we'll see if people change their mind once they see that we're capable of taking over some settlements. Maybe they'll be singing a different tune then. Sort of doubt it, but, you know, it's worth thought. I am a little bit worried that if we drag this on, the Cumans will declare war on us, and we have no defensive forces in Kiev right now at all. And losing Kiev would obviously be mildly disastrous for us. So, you know, we do want to try to bring this to a close as quickly as possible, but I also don't want to take a ton of losses. I'd like to at least have one turn where we kind of whittle them down a little bit. All right. So it looks like we're getting word with the Mongols. That's not a good thing. Okay, so we are keeping an eye on the public order in Kiev, because that's starting to get into the worrisome area. Now, the good thing is the rebel armies in this mod tend to be very, very aggressive, so they really just come straight at you. And the good thing about that is that your settlement garrison usually can destroy the rebels and therefore save you from having to send an army there. But it is more problematic in newly conquered settlements where you don't have a garrison army, because the rebels will take those over without a fight. So, definitely an issue. Okay, so they want us to go to war with the Yotvingians. I don't really feel like that's a great option for us, to be honest. So now we are in a better position here. We should be able to take this settlement on just fine. You can see we do have siege towers. We have a battering ram, so we should be pretty much good to go. The only thing that we're really lacking at this point is we don't have a lot of infantry to storm the walls with. And you'll see here that they do have quite a bit of units, but these units are at half health thanks to the attrition that they've suffered. So we're going to go ahead and fight this battle on the map just so we can kind of take a look at how these settlements look. And yeah, you can see here we're relatively evenly matched in numbers, to be honest. The boyar sons, or the dismounted boyars, are definitely going to be probably the hardest thing for us to break open, but we will benefit because our units basically double the strength of the enemies. And we have a lot of horse archers and everything, so hopefully we'll be able to put some fire onto those walls and take a lot of them out before our infantry has to close in to fight, or to win the battle in melee. So we can also kind of see here how the city... this... I'm not sure if this actually has very comprehensive walls. They may be relying a lot on those choke points, which can be good for us because we can spread the enemy out. And if we can spread the enemy out pretty well, we should be able to win one to two fights and then hit them from behind with our main, with the force that manages to win. So we'll see what happens here. See what the map looks like once we load in. Like I said, the load screens are a little bit long on this mod. It's really the only downside I've run into so far. But, honestly, that's a rather mild downside because you could always go get a drink, take a shit, take a piss, whatever you need to do. So we're going to start deployment with fog. Fog will help us by minimizing the damage we take from enemy missile troops as we advance. Yeah, so they have these choke points here. So this is actually kind of a pain in the ass to attack because we're basically going to have to choke point. But on the plus side, it looks like we have a wonderful busted gate right here. So we're going to go after that gate right away with the majority of our cav. And the reason we're just going to try to rush through that gate with our cav. See if there's any other busted gates here. It doesn't look like it. But this gate here looks like it's relatively open. Yeah, because we don't want to hit there because both of those gate towers will be able to fire on us. So that's definitely less than ideal for us. We are going to send our boyar sons in here. Or, not boyar. I don't know why I keep saying boyar sons, but dismounted Drishina. We'll send these guys in here to attack those walls. And then we'll send our infantry forward. We're actually going to have these guys drop. Yeah, we're going to have these guys drop the ram and follow up as melee infantry. And the reason that we're going to do that is because we have these wonderful useless spearmen here who can take the ram forward for us. We're going to put our infantry, our missile infantry here on standard shot. And we're going to spread them out so that they can go ahead and run forward and engage. And then we're going to hold our axe infantry back in reserve because they'll take a lot of casualties from missile fire, not having shields and all that. And we want as many to survive as possible. Okay, so let's go ahead here. We're going to get them. We're going to bust in the gate. And we are going to hit that wall and hit this wall here. So you can see already they have a pretty good spread of units here. They've actually done their defenses pretty decently. We're going to send our horse archers in here, though, to try to soften these spearmen up before our cav have to charge through the gates. We are going to move our cav up a little bit, just to be ready to charge. You can see his generals all the way back there defending that gap. His primary defensive force is located right here, trying to defend this gate right here. So our archers are now getting forward. We could try to shoot this tower down, but I'd rather try to focus fire on his archers, to be honest. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll put these archers on them. Oh. Yeah, there we go. So we'll see what sort of damage these archers can do. I'm not really holding my breath. Being behind the wall is a huge bonus to them. So I'm not really convinced our archers are going to be able to do a ton of damage. but if nothing else, we might be able to at least make them mildly unhappy with their current position in life. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so you can see our archers over on this side. Our horse archers are putting some fire onto these spearmen, but they're not causing a lot of damage because these spearmen do have shields, which protects them pretty well from our horse archers. So,
Horse archers!
we'll see what happens here. I'm not overly optimistic about how much damage our archers are really going to do, but we'll find out. Well, these archers actually, we got them down by 11 men, which is not bad at all, considering they started out at 60. So, you can see our siege towers are making progress towards the wall. So our infantry, once our infantry gets up here, these archers are going to get absolutely wrecked by our infantry. And ultimately, our archers are really just kind of doing their job here by putting some good suppressive fire on these enemy archers on the wall. If we can force even one of these units to retreat, it's going to save us a lot of lives as we try to rush the battlements here. So, you can see this unit, both of these enemy Rus Hunter units are actually losing quite a few troops. I'm actually surprised my Russian hunters are doing more damage to my English longbowmen did against the French. So, I don't know, maybe longbows are just a little bit underpowered? I have no idea. And you can see my horse archers here are not doing as nearly as well against these spearmen. So, I may try to do something a little bit different here. Let's try to get them high ground. So I just realized we can actually get up here, which that may allow us to fire into their flank, which would be really useful for us. Okay, so let's give this a shot, see if this works at all. And you can see now we are getting these archers to move. These archers are going, like, route. Yeah, so we did get the route on those archers, which that's going to be huge for us. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to put some fire onto these cav that are blocking this area off, because we don't have a lot of spearmen. We could also go ahead, oh actually, since we have spearmen going right there up the gate, so we might as well try to get some fire back onto these archers, because they are rallying and coming back. So we'll see how much damage these Rus Hunters can do. Our Rus Hunters, I'm actually pretty impressed with the work they're doing here on these enemy archers on the wall. And you can see now we do have our dismounted Druzhina here that are going to carve into these Smurd Spearmen. The Smurd Spearmen don't stand a chance against dismounted Druzhina. So now you see these archers are going to start vacating the walls. And I think that's mainly because we have our siege ladders coming down. And now here comes our infantry right into another unit of spurred spearmen, who are also probably pretty screwed right now. And you'll see our archers are going to... so we're going to take them off of fire at will, put them on halt, put them back on fire at will. That's just going to cause them to retarget a little bit. And so now you can see we do have... putting the horse archers up here was definitely a good move, because we are now routing these enemy spearmen on this side. It's this flanking fire that's coming in from the horse archers on the ridge. And that's also forced him to divide his defenses. You can see, you know, he's definitely a lot weaker with the defenses divided. And our cav is just sitting here waiting, watching the horse archers do their work, probably applauding some of their marksmanship a little bit, maybe. And now you can see we've now pretty well taken this over. The gates are just about done here. And so now we can start moving the rest of our infantry forward. And our infantry is just going to storm straight through this gate here. This battle on the wall is completely in our favor. You can see now the chain route going on up here with these dismounted Druzhina getting the flank attack coming in. They are stuck in melee with mounted Druzhina, which is not a great matchup for dismounted Druzhina, because they're not spearmen, so they're going to suffer a lot in that close range engagement. But because they are really heavily armored, they don't have to worry as much about casualties, and with the numbers so definitively in their favor, it doesn't really matter. I think we might actually capture this gatehouse before... we'll capture the gatehouse before we really need, before our battering ram finishes it off. And now you can see here our horse archers once again just putting in work on these poor dismounted Druzhina here. And we're actually going to switch them to... Well, oh no, it looks like they're actually not targeting dismounted Druzhina. They're targeting the enemy general unit. Even better. So now our archers here, and now we are going to send our cav in because the spearmen are defending the top of the gatehouse, not the top of the ramp. So this is going to give us an excellent opportunity to just smash these dismounted Druzhina, because like I said, they are vulnerable to a cav charge because they don't have spears. And so now you can see our cav is coming in here. We basically just steamrolled this line of Druzhina. And we're going to put our horse archers to targeting the spearmen. We're going to try to get our calves through this gap. Uh-oh, we have a lot of enemy spearmen coming in now. We definitely want to try to get off of that. So this is not good for us because we do have a lot of enemy spearmen coming in. We need to either... we might want to just... Yeah, we're going to pull out because... we're going to pull our cav out of that attack because of the fact that we're badly outnumbered and it's not really in our favor. Alright, but we are going to finish off these Druzhina here. We're going to get all of our melee infantry pretty much onto them, and that should be pretty decisive. We're going to bring our archers into the city too. That will have the additional benefit of getting them to stop shooting at our own troops. We've now got our commander and our heavy cav back outside the city, so that's good. We don't have to worry about losing them now. You can see our own infantry is just going to make very, very short work of these Druzhina. The poor Druzhina didn't really stand much of a chance there, and now we're just going to go straight on and steamroll into these heavy smurred infantry. And the heavy smurred infantry, they are well armored, they have spears, so they're excellent against cavalry, but they're not going to do much when they're surrounded by a horde of angry melee infantry. And we should see them rout pretty quickly as well. So, should be a fairly quick and easy victory here over these heavy smurred, especially now there are axemen. You can see these axemen that we kind of saved in reserve. They are now getting involved, and they should do quite a bit of damage to these spearmen. Spearmen are not really ideal against melee infantry, especially not melee infantry with massive axes. Okay, so now all we really need to do here is finish off this large group, these enemies that are on the capture points. We can actually go ahead and probably send our spearmen up to capture this point. We are starting to lose some troops. I think that's the enemy archers now. But it looks as if we are in a fairly good position. There's a few enemy spearmen down here, but I don't think they'll be able to do too much to us. These are actually T2 spear infantry, so they are pretty well equipped. But I don't think they're going to be strong enough to match off well against our own cav, especially after they're getting shot up by horse archers. So, and you can see our axemen putting in their work on another unfortunate unit of spearmen. These guys are just going to keep running. They know they're overmatched. They know the battle's pretty well lost. They're only light smurred spearmen, so they're not exactly equipped to deal with this sort of an enemy at all. They're basically peasants that got given spears and shields and told to kind of hope for the best. And now we're going to send our cav through the gates again. And we'll basically just cut these infantry up here. They're going to be cut off. We're not even going to stop and try to fight them. In fact, you can see that they're actually running just with the cav pouring through the gates. I think they probably they just know that they're completely overmatched at this point. They're just going to get cut off and slaughtered. So they are running for their lives, and you can see here our The spurred spearmen tried to come back and give a valiant go at it with our axemen here, but our axemen made very short work of them. This unit may very well actually get wiped out, and our spearmen are going up. Oh, they're actually going to go all the way this way, so they're going to have to take on these enemy enemy general's bodyguards. So that is going to be a little bit difficult, but not too concerned about it at all. Our cav is making an absolute wreckage of those archers. And now we're just going to send them up here to help deal with that enemy general. And that should really be the end of the battle here. This enemy general not even charging into battle. So that's going to put him at a significant disadvantage because his unit is shock capped. So they rely on that charge to get a lot of their killing power. And without charging, they're pretty well at the mercy of this horde of spearmen. Not that charging would have really helped them. They would have been slaughtered anyway. That ends the battle. It's a decisive victory for us. And once again, just a very easy victory because we allowed that attrition to do its work on the enemy troops. And you can see here, we took the majority of our damage was taken from his archers on the wall as we were trying to close in. And our own units, these dismounted Dragina, did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of both taking casualties and absorbing that enemy fire and getting kills. And our human light horse archers actually did quite a bit of good work as well. In terms of their ability, especially those units that got out there on the flanks and kind of hit them with that L-shaped ambush that made it so that their shields couldn't be presented in one direction. And that's something that's very important if you're new to Total War. It's really important with your archers to try to get them on the flanks where they can get that fire past enemy shields. I think they get a bonus as well. And I believe they also do additional morale damage if they're shooting from the flank. So that's definitely something you want, especially once the melee lines have collided. If you can get your archers on the flank where they're shooting into the sides or the rear, even better. It minimizes friendly fire casualties because you're shooting more directly at the enemy unit instead of through your own troops. It's going to really increase the amount of damage you do, which allows your lower tier units to really sort of meat shield higher tier enemy units because of those additional casualties they take from the flanking archers. So definitely something to keep in mind. Horse archers especially are very, very good for that. In addition to being able to kite heavy cavalry around the map and just wear them down. So overall, very easy victory, and that gets us our first province, which is what we really wanted. And like I said, we're going for a tall build, so I'm not really, pushing to get a whole lot of other territories. We're going to focus really more on quality over quantity. And only time's really going to tell. It may well be that history repeats itself and we get steamrolled by the Mongols. I'm sort of prepared for that eventuality because the Mongols are very difficult to fight against unless you can choke point their cav. Which I'm not really convinced that we can choke point their cav. I'm not convinced we have the best faction to do that either. So here we are. We did take Halych. And you can see here only 158 men lost compared to 1,100 enemies. So very solid victory for us, especially since we were attacking. And we are going to be the benevolent occupiers and not loot the city. We're just going to capture it.
Commander.
All right, so having Halych puts us in a slightly stronger position overall, but it didn't really help our economy that much. Whoopsies, what is this going on here? Okay, so let's see here. We are actually not going to repair that building. We're going to repair this building instead because it's going to make us more income. And then we are going to go ahead and upgrade our lord with 2 points of authority. That should help him in restoring order in this province. And you can see we're making 618 gold, which is not great, but we're going to end the turn here. We could assign another governor, but since our governors are, we kind of looked at our governor traits earlier, we don't really have good governors. So, yeah, we're not going to be overly eager to assign a governor just yet. We will probably focus on that in this upcoming turn once we have a little bit more income and once we can go ahead and repair some of these buildings that were damaged when we attacked the city. So there's a couple of different ways you could really go from here.
An attack would be prudent.
Ooh, they
What
want us
say
to
your
join
generals?
it's
Are
the
they
human
courageous? Are they eager?
confederacy. It seems like an awful idea, so we're going to reject it. We could always join the war later. The reason I'm not joining it now is because we're going to have our hands full trying to control this province here. And that's going to be hard enough for us to do. I'm going to go ahead and repair that building. You can see like our income is a little bit better now. It's still not great. If we went to war with the Cuman Kipchak Confederacy, we would then have to go and attack all these cities down here as well. And they also control cities here that could threaten Kiev as well. So that's why we're not going to war with them right away, especially since we do want to replenish some of the losses that we took. And I also want to see if we can get a treaty with the Polish, because that will definitely help us to guard our northern border.
I listen and speak for my people.
At the very least, I would like a defensive alliance, although it doesn't look like it's going to be a thing. So let's go for a trade agreement for now. We'll see if we get that. Nope, they don't want a trade agreement, so maybe we'll try to sweeten the pot. We'll just offer a small payment here. Let's try 500. Nope, still doesn't work. They aren't interested in trading just yet, but we also do border the Kingdom of Hungary. So let's see if they're willing to at least make... We don't want to do that. We want to see... Maybe we'll... No, they're not going to go for a trade agreement. Maybe a non-aggression pact? Nope, not right now. So we'll try again in another turn or so to get that non-aggression pact. We are trying to improve the loyalty here as well, because getting that improved loyalty is going to be pretty important for us. The other thing that we're looking for is we don't want to have a ton of overlap in our settlement buildings. And the reason we don't want that overlap is really because, like, where you have this, well, I guess this isn't technically overlap because they produce different types of units. But honestly, to us, what's more important right now is public order and sanitation. Because if you want to build tall, you need to have good public order, and you need to have good sanitation to support the big populations in your cities. So that's why we are demolishing that barracks or the muster grounds there, and that will let us go ahead and build a monastery, which, like this, or well, the skidi, which I think goes into the monastery, yeah. And the monastery is going to help us with sanitation. It's a cheaper way to improve sanitation than trying to build these additional city areas, because you'll see this costs 13,500 for an additional +4 sanitation, whereas this gives us the same +4 sanitation, produces some wine, gives us a little bit of food, and also costs less than half of what upgrading the city costs. Now, this is important for raising your population cap and your pop growth, but at this point, you also need to have the cost-effective way of improving sanitation too. So that's actually going to end this episode. I really just kind of wanted to get started, take the first settlement, and I don't want these episodes or these segments to go on too long. I feel like 40 minutes to an hour is about perfect. So when we come back in the next episode, I think we will end up joining this war against the Cuman Kipchak Confederacy and see if we can't take some of this. But I don't want to take everything, because I do want the Cumans to stay as sort of a buffer state against the Mongols. Because then the Mongols will attack them first, which in turn will basically give us kind of a forewarning and let us prepare our defenses. We'll also keep developing our home settlements, as that's going to be very important for our particular build style. So I appreciate you joining us for this one. If you have anything you really want to see, please put it in the comment sections below. Outside of that, thanks for watching, and take care.